funniest movies ever made back in the day. Like,
Yeah.
but I've always been a big fan of like the old comedies like that. Like I always loved Don Knotts, you know.
Yeah. We're live now.
We're live. Oh my gosh. All right. You guys are hanging out with two freaking goofy bastards, Joe Leonardo and Alexander Turbin. I'm over here on the West Coast. Alexander's over there on the East Coast. I'm way over here in the California scene. He's over in New York. We're handling all the cool comics in between. Well, Maine, anyways. Maybe not New York, but
close enough.
so you ever
East
see
Coast,
like
West Coast.
do you ever like run into Pennywise the Clown like when you're shopping in town?
No, but I told you that bridge. Did I tell you the story that the bridge that's in it burned down? Did I tell you that?
You mean if from the film or from the TV show?
From the film, like that was there, the real bridge while we were growing up, and like it was there, and then in the like early '80s, mid '80s or whatever, before it came out, I guess it burned down. Like pretty much the whole city went down to look at it. But also, like I did the cover for Joe King and his first published thing, and he had that same bridge as part of the story. So he had me draw the covered bridge, and I drew it up. And my friend was like better friends with Joe and stuff, so I gave it to him. And I guess Joe was like, that he didn't really draw that. That's because I drew it just from memory of what it was like, and we all remembered it. So I was pretty happy with that.
Dude, like
I
that's
don't.
pretty cool, man. Like that's pretty amazing. Although Joe King is a no hack, or is a hack, no talent loser. We'll say that freaking, that's pretty cool that you know him. His dad's amazing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
You don't like any of Joe's stuff?
dude, he can't write, man. That guy's no. I
I've
don't like
never,
anything he's ever done.
other than the short story that I did the cover for, I haven't read any of his books. I
Well,
li- I
he
kind of
did.
like I kind of like Horns.
He did that Netflix thing. Was it Lock and Key or whatever?
Yeah, yeah, and that was a comic book, but I
Yeah.
wasn't a big
I mean,
fan
that's
of
what he's
that.
mostly known for is graphic novel stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. So
dude, I mean, the guy's got a job because his dad is famous. It's whatever, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I don't think
yeah,
he's got an original idea in his head myself, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, yeah.
whatever, like there's certainly, I mean, dude, who would not? I mean, you'd have to be dumb not to take advantage of that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah, yeah,
there's nobody alive that wouldn't. I mean, so I can't sit here and begrudge the guy and be like, oh, I'm going to grumble because he walked into an easy spot and I didn't. It's like,
right, right.
God bless him. You know what I mean? Like, Jim
But he
Lee's.
also puts the work in. He
I was
writes
just
he
gonna
writes
say,
the
Jim
books.
Lee's son has got this really ridiculous thing he did called Slurp or Sludge or something like that, and Jim Lee constantly, will do covers for him and constantly will push it on his network and on his stuff, and it's just like pure nepotism. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And it's like
yeah,
at least Joe King is really in there putting in the work and doing, really trying to. You know what I mean? I mean, it's an
right.
impossible thing to live up to have someone like, Stephen King be your dad
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah.
But, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? At least
no,
he's
you
in there
can't live up to
swinging.
that. You can only, but I mean, he's done some pretty. I don't love his work, but I think some of his stuff is interesting. I thought Horns was interesting. I think Lock and
Yeah,
Key
I
is
did.
interesting.
It's a ridiculous premise, but whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's, not everything can please everybody. And just because
Yeah,
something
no,
isn't, to my liking or whatever, by no means am I calling it bad or whatever.
yeah,
But
yeah,
compared to like his father's stuff, like, I mean, that guy's, only remarkable because of who he is and, that he's got that name or whatever else. His stuff would probably never really break any, wouldn't be on
you're
anybody,
probably right.
what I mean? Because there's just not really anything there. But, like I said, not if some people are out there enjoying it on a level more than me, then God bless them. And I'm glad they
Yeah,
enjoy it because
yeah,
there's plenty of stuff that I probably like. I mean, I enjoyed Rob Liefeld, and a lot of people would tell me, that you're an idiot for liking that stuff or whatever. But you know what I
A
mean? Like,
lot of people. But
like
I
I
like
like
him
that stuff.
too.
You know, so whatever, you know what I mean? Like, teach their own. I appreciate anyone enjoying what they enjoy, but I'm such an insanely huge Stephen King fan. Like the entire Awfully World, series of books that I was working on, and I have the whole story in my head for the most part, and it was all inspired by the Dark Tower and how much I love the Dark Tower. It's inspired by Elric and it's inspired by Lord of the Rings and stuff like that too. But mostly it was like I just was not happy with the ending of the Dark Tower. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
mostly I just felt really like he didn't really give us the ending that we're supposed to get. And I just thought, I want to write one that has a good ending. You know what I mean? Was what
Yeah.
I thought,
Well,
and
that's the thing. That's the thing about endings for anything. They're not. People can criticize every ending, and they do. It doesn't matter what it is. People are going to criticize the ending, but it's not your ending. It's the ending for whoever's creating the story. So,
yeah, yeah,
if you have something, then you create it and you give them the ending, and everybody will hate that.
See,
So
that's exactly right. And that's the cool thing about creating your own work or whatever, because you can do that. You can just be like, look, this is what I think and what I think it should be. And this is what I'm going to do or
right,
whatever. You
right,
know what I mean? And it could be exactly what everyone else has done before, or it could be totally different or whatever, like,
yeah,
and I remember like when I was, as I came up with the concept, one of the things that had popped into my presence of mind was that when people are doing these big sagas, the end books are always an epic trudge of just dreariness and darkness or whatever, because you're marching through the worst part of the book. Like it's when the giant army is finally there and everybody's just at war or whatever. It's the same thing in every book. It's like that in Game of Thrones. It's like that in Lord of the Rings. It's like that in Harry Potter. And it's just like, and I remember I designed my story to not work that way. Like at the
yeah,
very end, like it didn't have a big epic battle thing. Like that was not part of the thing. They're on a quest to get to a certain place, like the Dark Tower. In mine, it was called the Wishing Well at the End of the World, but it's
yeah,
really called the Bright Tower because like I was just writing this juxtaposition of like the Dark Tower or whatever, right? And it's just the idea was that it's this like white spire with this magical well at the top of it.
yeah.
But as you climb the white spire, like the whole last book would be short, in my head. And it would be this really quick, like the bottom of this tower is a giant graveyard filled with zombies and monsters and Draculas and all this stuff, right? And then the whole first part of the book, the first like 60 pages, would be this epic fight through this magical graveyard filled with monsters, right? And it's a bunch of children at this point. It's more children than just my heroes. Beginning, I think they have like a handful of kids with them by then because it's the end. So it's a little bit more like Peter Pan and the Lost Boys, where they have a handful of kids that they've gathered through the 7 books, that are with
Right.
them. And so like, these kids, they make this epic, run through this graveyard, they get into the bottom of the spire. And then the whole idea was that it would be a wonderful trek from this part forward. Like they would get into the bottom of the spire and they would go through the 3 levels of like heavens or whatever. And then they would come to like the Greek heaven of, or no, the Roman heaven of, what is it? Ethereum or something like Elysium, I think is what they call
Elysium. Yeah,
it.
that's a
Yeah.
Roman.
Yeah, that's the Roman one. And then you would get to the Greek one, which would be, Olympus or whatever, right? Which would be just
Yeah,
above Elysium. And as you're walking up the spire, they go to these different heavens. They get rewarded. They're treated like heroes. They meet all these gods, like you would like in a game of Dungeons and Dragons or something, or like in an old movie. And then they go up to the Norse, which is the next level up, meet all them, party with them. And then finally they have a chance to go to actual heaven. And they pass by it, but they can't go into it because if they go into heaven, they can never leave it or whatever.
yeah,
So they walk by and they see it, at the very end, but they don't go into it. And then at the very end, they just all travel to the top of the well. They all drop their pennies in and themselves back into their real lives. And the story, the hero character, which is based on my older brother, he stays behind, and only the younger brother, which is me, wishes himself back into the story or wishes himself back home, right? So at the end of the story, we come back 10 years later, and the one kid who wished himself and kept his childhood inside him is writing the book about his, about the story or whatever about him and his brother. And his brother can't do it because he's very mechanical and he, doesn't have any imagination because his childhood never came back, and it stayed there because it becomes a guy that just like ushers the children back and forth between this like magical world where they can make it back into their old life if they traverse it.
I think you should. I think you should read. You should make a video of reading the first chapter, and we'll make a video of it.
Dude, that's so funny that you said that because I was literally just thinking that last night.
Yeah, yeah,
that's rad. No, I'll do that for sure.
Cool. That would be cool.
Because I would really like to read up to a certain point and just see what people think and see if we get any feedback on it.
But you should draw up one really.
I already have illustrations to go with it. I already do.
Okay, that would be great. Yeah. That would be great if you.
Yeah, I literally already have illustrations to go with all of it. I do.
Cool.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, we'll do that for sure. Okay, cool. But now we're going to get back to what's at hand. And if anyone's here hanging out with us, we appreciate you coming in and chilling. And we actually got a couple of thumbs up.
That's cool. They came and went. But that's okay. Maybe they'll come back. Hello? Did I lose you? I lost you.
Okay.
No, you're back. You're back. What happened?
I just accidentally touched the button.
Was there an earthquake?
No, just hand trimmers because I'm old.
Yeah, so I'm interested in, because I looked through, I can't remember if I looked through this one. I definitely looked through Random Access 35, but I don't think I did a YouTube video on 34. But maybe, I'm not sure if I should do videos. You think I should do videos after they've been out a month or as they come out?
I don't know, dude. I don't think, I don't think you're going to hurt the sales by showing the stories a little bit, or maybe you don't have to cover all of the story if you're really apprehensive about it, but we could cover like 1 or 2 pages in the front of it or whatever, you know what I mean? It's not like, I don't believe anyone's on there freezing the YouTube channel so that they can read these things or something,
Oh yes, they are. Oh yes, they are. They're into it. They're into it.
This is that pissed me off. Where is the other half of this story? I know it's done.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Let's go through it. Random Access 34, because this is the first 20 pager. And
I was upset. I'm not gonna lie, man. I was upset when I got to this one, you know what I mean? And then I went right to the back and was just like, what?
Let's go through this.
Okay.
My screen is kind of messed up, so it's not really showing all. Well, I guess it's showing all of that, but it's not showing all of the pages.
Well, I have mine zoomed down.
Yeah,
I have mine zoomed down to just one page, and then I'm just gonna go left and go right.
Yeah, that's cool. So I guess we'll go through the contents or whatever. So the first 8 pages.
Mine doesn't have that because mine's just a working copy. I don't have
right. Yours doesn't have that. So I sent Joe working copies. I print these, and when I'll print the first one, and then it'll be like all off center and crooked and stuff. So then I will fix some things, and then I'll make another copy, and then I will go and fix it again. And usually it's the third or fourth copy will be this one. This is actually the final version, where it will have as much as the things that I can think of to fix it.
Well, I'm cool. I just want to have the story, honestly. I just like to read them or whatever. You know what I mean? I just want to, and I just like, because this is a group of artists that we all work with. Like what Random Access really is it's a melting pot of all the different that Alex and I hang out with on Instagram, and these are all just
Yeah.
dudes,
Yeah.
just working regular jobs and just making comic books on the side. And sometimes they have no platform to get their stuff published, or maybe they never feel like they do enough content to where someone would want to publish it or something. But with Alex, they could just do a single page of work and get their
Yeah.
work out there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Random Access has really become like a jumping off point for a lot of the artists that we hang out with to get their work viewed by other people, and it's really fun. So I like to see it just to see examples of what the other artists are doing, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just
Yeah.
because you hang out with them online or whatever, but and you see, we all post our work here or there or whatever, you see a little shot of it on your phone, you know what I mean? But it's totally different to look at it printed up on a page, it's like way
Yeah.
cooler to see
Yeah.
it like, really printed so you can
And
actually look at it.
everybody loves their books printed too.
Yeah.
So
Who doesn't want to see their comic
that was
book printed up?
exactly what I was thinking, was that there's so many people that have, they do 1 or 2, 3 pages a month on stuff, different anthologies and things. But
Yeah.
Random Access is a monthly thing. So, if you do 3 or 4 pages, 2 or 3 pages, whatever, that's cool. But if you miss a month, that's totally cool too. It's just Random Access is exactly that. It's random. And, sometimes you don't like that. Like, you were talking about how
That's
my
the part we're
stories
going to start
sometimes
working on now. It's got to be less random, dude. I want these stories to start lining up.
less random and more access. But
Dude,
that's
like
what it
that's
is.
what I'm
I
saying.
mean,
Like that's why I'm thinking. Like it might not be a bad idea to go back and start like reprinting out like all the sirens or reprinting out all the quellers from the very beginning and like
well, that's
putting
what I
them in
do.
successively. You know what I mean? Like,
That's what I
but go
do.
back from the
I have
beginning.
Cyrene 1 and 2 all done. I just have to put them on the website. They were on my previous website.
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
up to issue 5 when it's just a matter of doing it and finding the time to do it.
No, I feel you. Maybe I'll
Yeah.
do like a couple covers like that to help those along too. I wouldn't mind
That
doing
would be
that.
awesome. That would be wicked awesome.
Do like a real sexy
I'm
siren.
close to doing Queller number 2, and that's going to be your cover, the one you did with the Pegasus. So
Oh, is that right? Shit,
yeah.
well, maybe I'll do a good one. That one kind of sucks, you know what I
Oh
mean?
no,
Like,
that's awesome, dude.
you
That's
think
an
so?
awesome
I
cover.
struggled
Oh
with that.
yeah.
Like the thing what I was thinking was that, like, I was thinking the Pegasus. I was just like trying to think of how to put an angle on it, because it's
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that thing or whatever. And I was like, well, maybe, like, I was like, well, maybe a Pegasus is slightly larger than a regular horse. You know what I mean? It was like
Right.
what I
Oh
was
yeah.
thinking in my brain. I was just thinking, like, maybe because it's mythological, like maybe it's even bigger than like Clydesdale. You know what I mean? It was just kind of was what I was kind of
Right.
trying to get to come across. But I feel like ultimately it just looks unbalanced, like he's just too small, like sitting on a horse that just looks too large or
Oh
whatever.
no, it's a fantastic cover. It's great. I love
I
it.
appreciate that. I was
So
noticing though, like, yeah, I noticed like that's like a theme in your stuff. I noticed like you'll take I was like, Alex, you take all the mythological things and then you destroy them. You're like, oh, I want a Pegasus, but it has its wings chopped off. Or you're like,
well,
they're
that's the
unicorns, but
thing.
they had their horns removed. You're like, they're elves, but they had to cut the tops of their ears off.
Right, right. Well, yeah, I mean, I think of things, fantasy things, literally. But I mean, Queller is he's a creature hunter. Like he hunts,
Right, he's
vampires
like
and
a
werewolves,
Witcher or
and
whatever, or something like that.
he's basically a cross between Nightbreed and the X-Men, where not all of these creatures are evil or bad. So he comes across these moral dilemmas. You
Dude,
know.
that's a fun idea. Nightbreed? What the heck? That's out of nowhere.
Uh,
Most people don't know
I
what
love
that is.
Nightbreed. Huh? Do you say you don't know what Nightbreed is?
No, I said most people don't know what
Oh,
Nightbreed
oh,
is. Yeah.
yeah, no, I love it. It's a horrific X-Men, really. But yeah, so almost all of my books have some sort of theme with them. Like Cyrene is totally about faith and you know what you believe in and how far your faith can take you and all of that kind of stuff. And Queller is more it's my X-Men. It's my you know uh um are things evil that are not evil, or and just stuff like that. So
Sure.
but let's get
Yeah,
into this. What's
I was
that?
gonna say, I don't know, like when I'm telling stories, man, like I said, I come to it from a much more, I don't, you're better at coming up. That's why, in all honesty, and this is very true, it's like, it's very rewarding working with you, what I mean, working on comics with you together, because like your style of storytelling is very different than mine,
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
things you'll come up with are drastically different than the things that I would naturally do. So
yep,
it's challenging for me as an artist, which is fun. But even beyond that, like, like my stuff tends to be very sort of like 1990s ish, sort of like I'm locked into this sort of like, what I want to call it, sort of like Star Trek, sort of Jurassic Park kind of like techno freaking jargon or whatever, where you're like, you know what I mean, where you're like presenting this like idea slickly or whatever, and you're like, maybe there's like technical talk in it, but you're not really giving anything too realistic or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
my
yeah,
storytelling is like it can be very two-dimensionally, right? Because it's mostly about how things look and like, like bigger ideas and things like that or whatever. But you'll come in with very silver age ideas. You know what I mean? You'll come on with your very silver age stuff sometimes. And it's like super fun. And it's like, it's not about pathos or you know what I mean. You'll just come in
yeah,
with like
yeah.
really
No,
cool off the wall, like fun ideas or whatever, and it'll alleviate things. You know what I mean. It changes the pace and makes you know what I mean. It's like it just
yeah, yeah.
feels
No, no.
more
We will
organic
work
and
great together.
yeah, it's more natural. The stories become
Yeah,
more less of one thing. They like less like they just feel more natural and balanced because like they're not being overweight or over like pushed by singular ideas. Like like you can see it like say like when you read freaking like what Alliance is coming out like versus us working together versus like me working alone in a vacuum like Six Lords of Sound. You know what I mean? Like Six Lords of Sound is very much like this like isolated like event. It's very much based on like my love of like Youngblood #1 and the
right.
whole like idea of making an entire book nothing but one big fight scene or whatever, which is like that classic Image thing. Like all the Image books were just fight scenes, like Prophet was just fight scenes and Youngblood was fight scenes and Brigade was just fight scenes, and you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
all those books were
which
just like
can, the first issue of a fight scene comic book is fine, but then after that, you need some story in order
yeah,
to
it
keep
just
wanting
becomes
to.
nothing after a while. It's a
Yeah,
it's a pie with no filling, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like yeah.
exactly.
So like it's cool. It's super rewarding, you know what I mean? Because like that first book, I'm real happy with it, but it's got a lot of limitations as far as like like you get stuck on your ideas and you're just doing the singular thing, and then it becomes that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, making a nice, clean, sharp arrowhead or whatever. But it's cooler, you know what I mean, to have like other people involved and to be, to give the story more character. And it just
Yeah.
ultimately does when you have more people working on it. And it's just like,
Oh yeah.
it's more fun to be collaborating with like Captain America probably would not have been Captain America without Simon and Kirby together. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Fantastic
Exactly.
Four would not be Fantastic Four without Kirby and freaking, the man.
Yeah. Yeah. Stanley. Yeah.
Without
Yeah.
Stan, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. That's a whole nother conversation of whether we needed Stan Lee or not. But let's
yeah,
get into the book.
we did, Stan, I mean, he he definitely when you talk to everybody, like, not everyone got along with him, and probably the people that were there creating the original stuff, I can see why they resent him. Like I can see why Steve Ditko and why Jack Kirby resent him the most. You know what I mean? Because those are the guys that really fashioned the four cornerstones of Marvel. Like
I think Stan Lee did 10% of the work.
I think he probably did less than that. You know what I mean? Like
So
it's probably more like
it's hard
five
to
point
think
six.
it's hard to think thank God Jack Kirby isn't alive to see the MCU and make hundreds of billions of dollars and be like, I created all of those. I created 90% of all of those characters,
Yeah,
and why am I not a billionaire?
I
So,
agree.
but this is
I
a
agree.
whole other conversation that we could have about
Yeah, yeah.
So let's
But
go through this. I'm really interested because you really kind of were talking about this first story that I did, part of the Forlorn, and this is actually issue number 3. because I have 1 and 2, not on the website yet, but I've had 1 and 2 on. I've sold them and I've had stuff. So there's all kinds of stuff going on before this, but this is really its own storyline. So what do you think of this?
Well, like I said, Alex, your stuff is so different than mine or whatever. This is much more a classic comic book kind of story. This is like like when you're reading it, it feels more like something, from House of Mysteries or like House of Secrets or something like
Yeah,
that. Like
yeah,
you think it's going to be like like say all this, like this, this and this, I all thought was leading to like a graveyard story of some kind, you know what I mean? Like
right,
some sort of
right.
spooky story or something like that. And
Yeah,
then, in classic Alex Turbin, freaking you take it into a totally bizarre territory, which I was not expecting at all. And it all of a sudden becomes this like pseudo, what I would call out of the top of my head, um, it's a sci-fi thing, but who am I thinking of? It's a Philip K. Dick style sci-fi thing where it's like sci-fi walks into a very regular looking world all of a sudden. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
because Philip K. Dick will do that, like where you're like, he'll introduce you to a story where it's just like some guy in an apartment watching TV, eating chips. You know what I mean? Like everything is presented to you as this normal version of reality that you feel like pretty comfortable with. And then all of a sudden he'll be like, and then just outside the door, the auto mechanico capo bots, began to knock on the door or whatever. You know what I mean? He'll just
yeah.
throw some like crazy sci-fi idea at you all of a sudden or whatever. And you're like, oh, okay. Like, so we're not in this regular place like I thought we were for a second there. Like we're in some future where there's robots walking around outside or whatever, like. So what
So
is the deal with that here anyways? Because
my
like
my
it's not.
whole idea, my whole thought was this started as a story for an old man becoming a superhero. A little bit like Dark Knight, where I think maybe I was thinking a little bit of Dark Knight, where old man Bruce Wayne is, Batman, and he's old and he comes out of retirement and stuff. But I really wanted an old man to have lived his life. He's had his kids; they're dead. They, disowned him or whatever. They're gone. He's had his wife. He's had his whole life ahead of, behind him. So like he's depressed or whatever because old people get really depressed, and who can blame them? What have they got to look forward to except for death, which is you know that's kind of a simple way of thinking about it or looking at it, but it's kind of true. But so I really wanted to and capture like a next bigger adventure for somebody who's already lived their life. The one thing
Well, it looks
though.
like Patrick Stewart is playing our hero here,
Yeah,
and it
yeah,
looks like,
definitely inspired by Patrick Stewart, 100%.
and
I
then it looks
decided to, I
like Ron
decided to,
Offerman from Parks and Recreation.
I decided to give this woman. They're at a funeral, his wife's funeral, and she's dressed in pink. I don't know why she's dressed in pink and not in black, but there's a reason.
Okay.
So I don't know what it is.
Well,
But then,
he's wearing some pretty, I mean, like the dark, the orange shirt underneath is not
yeah,
exactly what
yeah.
normal someone would normally wear at
Right,
a
right.
funeral either.
But I was reading something about Fargo and the guy that did the Fargo TV series and how he had all kinds of weird stuff. Or not all kinds of weird stuff, but every once in a while
No,
he'll
I know
add
what you mean.
some
Like,
kind of weird thing. And that he was saying that that's kind of like how real life is, where you'll be having your, doing whatever it is, your work or whatever, and then some weird thing will happen, and it just adds color to the story. It adds something to the story, some kind of ethereal thing that you really can't, grasp a hold of, but it's there, and you're like, it kind of triggers the imagination. It was Quentin
um,
Tarantino that was talking about that actually. Too.
what is the meaning of the girl like that's in color in the freaking in Schindler's List?
Schindler's List. Oh, who knows? But that's
No,
who knows?
I actually do know. I watched Stephen King talk about it or whatever, but I'm just saying, like that's like
Yeah.
that kind of thing or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. So, Yeah, these are all on the website, and the website Comics Creators Marketplace is up and running. We've had some issues with security, but I'm tackling those issues, and so these are all up on the website too. By the way,
So yeah,
and
this is a nice looking page too. Just to go at it, like just to let you guys know. I mean, this is some pretty nice looking art from you too. How old is this stuff? Is this pretty recent, or is this
this no,
a
this
while
is old.
older?
This is like 15 years, 16 years,
Oh,
something
okay.
like that. So this is older. That's why I was saying earlier that I was working on the Forlorn when the Power Comics guys kind of refound Mutandis and stuff. So I kind of jumped ship on the Forlorn. So I have like 4 issues done of the Forlorn, um,
Now,
somewhere. And
when you say
eventually
issues,
they
how many pages is that? Is that 10? Is that 20?
20,
Is that
20 pages per issue. So,
20 pages? That's a good that's a good size indie
yeah,
comic for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff to it, and I did have a lot of thoughts of like, what would Alan Moore do? What would Grant Morrison do? Kind of thing, because they're my two heroes as far as writing is. But also, the biggest thing is I have these two warring factions, warring alien creatures that kind of become the superhero with this old man, and they make him into the superhero. That is my Fire Lord, because I remember reading Fire Lord when I was younger, and he had the doctor in his head, and the doctor would talk to him, his psyche
You
or
mean
whatever.
Firestorm?
Firestorm, not Fire Lord.
There
Sorry.
you go.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, you caught me off
exactly.
guard there for a second.
Right, right. No, yeah, all those fire guys are the same.
Dude,
But
that's
yeah,
all right.
Fire.
Because I was a big Firestorm kid. I was there when it was created or whatever, and I had
Yeah,
Firestorm #1. I
yeah.
got
So
that
do
from
I.
my work.
I
That was
think I
I
did.
don't have it anymore. Sadly,
Yeah,
it sucks.
yeah.
But it's one, it's one of the ones I let go when I purged my books when I was young or whatever. But as much as I thought that character, because he's sort of like, I mean, he's kind of like Dr. Manhattan light. You know what I mean? Or,
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit. Yeah,
they're kind of like
yeah,
he essentially has the exact same powers as Dr. Manhattan. But I always thought it was so weird that like he had to meld with his like high school teacher to become Firestorm or whatever. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah, yeah.
Like,
So that's
like
that's
he had
kind of
to,
what I was thinking of when I was thinking, and it would have only instead of having, because the teacher was like, would scold him and stuff like that,
yeah,
and
that
kind of
was so bizarre. Like, why does
lead
he
him
have
or
to turn
whatever.
into his teacher?
Right,
And
right.
his
But
teacher's
in
like,
this,
yeah, just in his head, like,
they'll be fighting.
yeah, it
You
was
know,
so weird.
yeah. So let's look at Cyberzerker.
There was a real like, oh man, when I was a kid, I always liked the fantasy stuff. Did you ever happen to find any copies of Orion, the Sorcerer of Atlantis?
No.
No, never, ever.
What what is it? Is it a comic
It's
book?
called Orion,
Orion.
Arion,
Oh,
Orion.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think I always called it Aryan.
Well, you might be right. For all I
You're
know,
right.
I'm terrible at those pronunciations. I
Yeah.
called Elrica Melnibone Elrica Melnibone for 40
Right.
years.
Yeah,
You know
yeah. So did
what
I. Yeah. 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 I don't remember much of it. I always thought it was like a isn't it Aryan or Orion something something?
Yeah, it's
Like,
like Orion, Lord of Atlantis, or something like that.
oh, yeah.
Freaking, and he's like the sorcerer, Lord of Atlantis, or something like that, or like the head sorcerer of Atlantis. And
Yeah.
I just always loved the man. Just anything with fantasy, dude, always got me. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah,
I
me too.
was like, I had like all those. I had like Iraq, the Son of Thunder. Remember those? With the Indian guy or whatever. Like, what I'm
We got
talking
a
about?
we got a comment by Elvira Tenney. This is random access number 34, and you can go to comicscreatorsmarketplace.com. I'll put it in the description, or in the description when I add it, when this is when the video is all done. It's $2.99. So yeah, there's also a bunch of other artists. It's an anthology. So let's look at the next story by Jamie Barrows, because I think this character, I already know a bunch of people have already done pictures of him, and I
Oh,
think
I know. It's totally cool, man.
he's got
Like
a
some of
great
them are
look.
really good too.
Yeah, yeah, they're fantastic.
Like
And
who's
I
that
did
guy that
one.
Yeah, I know yours is cool too. But there's somebody did like a a Photoshop's looking, you know what I mean, with a bunch of like chrome on it and stuff or
Yeah,
whatever. Like
yeah,
like I don't even know Photoshop. We'll just say a digital version, because I really
right.
don't know all the elements that go into it, obviously. But it was looking freaking awesome. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
that is awesome. I don't know. We have so many artists on the group. You guys have to forgive me. I can't call you all out by name just by like, thinking about the art or whatever. But man, whoever had done that piece was very cool looking.
Astor did a great piece.
Astor,
He's cool.
Astor D
Yeah,
or something like
yeah.
that. Yeah,
Astor D. Yeah, has done a great one. But
yeah.
yeah,
It was
there's a
rad,
few out
dude.
there. There's just something about the character. It's weird because some characters you create them and you think they're awesome and they may be awesome, but people don't really connect with them. They have to be some sort of connection to them. I don't know what that connection is.
Well,
Maybe it's who knows? Who knows what it is? If
you
we
know,
knew, then we
it's
would only make awesome characters.
yeah, like I mean, Cyber Zerker, like right off the back, it's like it's taking place in this sort of like it's like real similar to like say Thundar the Barbarian, you know what I mean,
Yep.
kind of thing, where
Yep.
it's like half sword and sorcery and half like science and stuff like that. Those are always badass. Like,
Yeah.
I, like you're creating the Morgrim thing. Your Morgrim thing is in a like a classic medieval
Yep.
universe or whatever. But that doesn't mean that they couldn't, come across a freaking continent that's across the sea that has like ornithopters and like giant robots that walk or something. You know what I mean? Like that's a great thing about fantasy and like all that stuff is that you can just cross it or I mean, like this is just like a classic like who knows where this is going idea, but it's like super fun. You know what I mean? Because just like
Yeah.
right off the
Yeah.
back, it's just like all it could just be so many different things. It could be
Yeah. Yeah.
sorcerers or it could be freaking like oh, we're getting some
Yeah.
random access stuff.
Yeah.
Just like
Uh,
the fantasy versus like Mad Max, like
yeah.
post-apocalyptic wasteland stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And
Anytime you merge with those kind
Elvira
of
is
ideas,
asking where she can order the book, and it's you can get it at comicscreatorsmarketplace.com.
.com.
So that's where you can get it, and you can get Joe's book there too, Six Floors of Sound, and some other stuff. There's 20 pages. It's 20 pages of anthology greatness.
Yes, you can get
But
Six
yeah,
Lords of
yeah,
Sound there, or you could get Entropy Alliance #1 there. Freaking both of my comics are available there right now.
Entropy Alliance isn't on there yet.
Oh well, it will be
It
very
will be.
soon then.
It will be. It will be. Yeah, yeah.
But right
But
now we're
yeah,
talking
I
about
mean,
Jamie Bear, full, Cyber Zerker, and it's just like it's so much fun. Jamie's a big barbarian guy. Jamie is the
yeah,
guy who
yeah,
puts together the Crom anthologies, and we've all done those along with him, and those are super fun. And this is, him being able to let himself loose and come up with the idea that serves that he thinks is fun. And the interesting thing about Jamie is he's a very introspective guy. You know what I mean? Like, on the one hand, you might get something very like superficially glossy and like sort of like this character looks like he could be on a classic 80s album cover for the band
yeah,
Saxon or something like
yeah,
that. You know
yeah.
what I
Or
mean?
in
Like
heavy metal.
that's what I mean. Like for well, Saxon was a big like they were like Iron Maiden wannabe back in the
Yeah,
1980s or whatever.
yeah,
But I'm just saying like because all those bands would have like like you had done the Kiss video recently, and I was thinking about how like when we were kids growing up, and you were like, "Oh, I loved Kiss so much," and
yeah,
obviously not as much now, but that was such a big deal, and it was like, and then you were like, "Now I'm going to do an Evil Knievel book or whatever," because you have this idea for an Evil Knievel
yeah,
story,
yeah,
and I was thinking about how Kiss and Evil Knievel were kind of like the closest reality ever gave us to real superheroes. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Oh,
Like,
definitely, definitely.
especially
They're,
back in the '70s when we still believed in the myths a little bit, and like our heads hadn't been cracked open so hard by social media reality and news 24/7 showing the worst of side of humanity like every second it can get its hands on it.
yeah,
And we
yeah,
still had a little bit of innocence as a society, in the
Yeah, yeah.
70s. You know what I mean? Like,
And I
and
mean, they also targeted us as kids, but they didn't only target us. They targeted Kiss, especially targeted adults with their singing, and then us kids with the, all of the weird stuff that they did.
yeah, it's just that, I mean, it's almost, they were like superheroes. It was like they had
Yeah,
this
yeah,
amazing persona.
yeah,
And then, they had this amazing persona, and then they disappeared and no one knew who they were. But even on top of that, it was all tied into those album covers. And in those
yeah,
album covers, they were mythical characters. Like in
yeah.
the album covers, they were like Conan the Barbarian on the cover of like books or whatever. You know what I
Oh yeah,
mean? Like
oh yeah,
because they became painted things on those covers, like on Destroyer or Dr. Love or whatever. Like it gave them like this mythical reality that like made them like feel like real superheroes. Like, oh, this guy breathes fire, and this guy plays guitar until lightning and smoke come out of it, and you know what I mean? Like when you're a kid and you're just like, oh yeah, like they're like superheroes. Like
yeah,
no one knows who
yeah,
they are. They just appear and rock the stage, and the whole world blows up, and then they just disappear. No one knows who they are. It's just like, oh my
yeah,
god. I
yeah,
guess
yeah,
Muhammad
definitely.
Ali was basically kind of like a superhero to me too back then.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
Muhammad Ali and freaking Evil Knievel.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, what do you think of Roscoe and Kitty?
I think it's rad that
Jeremy
he.
Duncan.
What I really, what I really think is rad about Roscoe and Kitty is that they're finally getting out to people. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
He
yeah.
puts a lot of work into these all the time, and he's constantly working on them. And I don't know if they ever get seen anywhere on his website other than by whoever's following him or whatever. You know what I mean? And I don't know that he ever publishes them or puts them into any kind of like anthology kind of thing where he's got them at least like where people can sit down and read them. And it's cool as heck because like he puts a lot of work into them. They have this beautiful
He
sort
he
of like
draws he draws the hell out of women. I love his women in
yeah,
particular.
well, I mean, he's got a total style to everything he does.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? He draws them. I mean, they're like. I mean, it's not what I do with women, but
no, it's
he's got.
completely different. That's
Yeah,
one of
I
the great
mean,
things about
he's just
random
got this
access
like.
is
I don't know what I call it. It's like it's like obviously it looks a lot like the Little Nemo stuff,
a
but
little bit.
I
Yeah,
mean, he baby dolls everything or whatever and gives it all this like sort of soft, sexy thing. It reminds me that would be in classic heavy metal back in the day. Like it's
yeah,
just
yeah.
like you know, it's just like
I
sexy
I just
girl
I just love it because
and
it's so
humor.
different from everything else. It's so
Well, that's
unique.
what makes random access cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
you got all these different artists, and I mean, it's really starting to feel like heavy metal. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah,
but now what I want is to succession in these stories. You know what I mean? I want to
yeah.
see.
We're
I
working
want to
on it. We're
see.
working on it.
Like them going along, and one story continuing until it has a short finish, and then we go on to another guy's set of stories.
Well,
Like
I
this
mean,
is
that's
super cool.
random access started for me because I get artist fatigue really, really quick on a story. So that's why I was only doing 10 pages because after 10 pages, I'm like, I want to move on to something else, something different.
Well, I
So
know it was
that's
also
why I get
designed that way because
reinvigorated.
yeah, and I know you also designed it that way because you didn't know what artists would be contributing on any given issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like it was
yeah, definitely.
always set up to have like other artists contribute on it. But
Yeah,
only recently have you built up a base big enough to where you're really starting to get a lot of contributors.
yeah,
And not only
yeah,
that, you're getting a lot of very interesting contributions. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
yeah,
it's not just like, oh, this guy's turning in one page of a thing, or this guy's turning in one page of a thing, or 2 pages. Of course, this guy's still doing that, but you're getting bigger and more consistent works. You know what I mean? That have longer storytelling components to them. Even though it's
yeah.
still cool to get the little stuff, or even if someone just has one page, like the Roscoe and Kitty, what's
Yeah,
important is that
it's still one story. Yeah.
yeah, it has, and it's getting a platform to be published, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Even if it's just like one page in this one, and I don't even know, do they have one page in this one? Does Roscoe Kitty? Yeah, and then another
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
page in this one. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yeah.
That's cool, dude, because like at least it's getting printed, like and
Yeah.
people are
Yeah.
able to see it. He puts a lot of work into these, like,
Yeah. So what do you
you know,
think of Swayze? Swayze's playing a possum.
well, Swayze's he's a real sort of like modern artist guy, you know what I mean? He's into art on a kind of like a different level than, someone like me or whatever. Like we're into it for different things, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I see his work on the side and he's very experimental. He likes to just like play around with different ideas and you know what I mean? He likes to play around with different mediums and stuff like that. Super cool anytime, but what's important to me is that artists that are creating are getting a platform to have their work be seen.
And I think he's growing. I definitely think he's growing as an artist, and there's a lot of stuff that he's working on harder and harder. That's what a lot
Well,
of these artists. Paul Courtjohn who's done a lot of stuff for Random Access.
you know,
I believe he's only been
Swayze's
drawing really for 5 or 6 years,
Swayze's story
consistently.
in Entropy Alliance is pretty fun. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like,
it's great.
here's him doing a more conventional, like actual comic book story, like, and it's a cool little story, you know what I mean? And it makes perfect sense. It all plays out in perfect succession. So I have no issues with, how he tells the story or anything.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
his art is fun. It's a loose, simple line, you know what I mean? He's not slaving to anybody's idea of what it should be. You know what I mean? He just has his own process. He follows it. And he's real comfortable with that. And it's always cool to see other artists, showing off their style and letting their style
yeah,
flow. You know what I mean? Because
yeah,
like
yeah, definitely.
everybody's out there trying to, because like nobody comes from nowhere to art. You know what I mean? Looking at something else that inspires them and then they begin to draw. It's not like you just like sit down and you're staring at the wall one day and you just go, I'm going to draw something. Like you're
Right.
usually, it's somebody, you saw something and you're like, oh, you feel something, you think something, and you need to express it. And we're not filmmakers, we can't go out and write a script and have Hollywood produce a $20 million film, or we can't, put it into the opening sequence of a TV series we're designing or whatever, So the only way to get it out there to the world is freaking, to sit down with a pencil or your pad or your iPad or whatever it is you do, you know what I mean? And draw
Yeah.
that story out. Now, speaking of like awesome looking drawn stories, like what's going on right here, super rad looking Morgrim story from
Well,
freaking Jake Quirk.
let's back up to Doug Roberts' story. We don't want to skip Doug.
Is
Doug
that
was Doug was actually one of my patrons and contacted me through Patreon and stuff. And I feel like he is growing. Like I really pressed him to do some color, and his color stuff is really, really fantastic. And I feel like he's just scratching the surface of doing his color work too. So
is
I'm
that
really
is this
interested to
is this
see.
him too?
Yeah, yep. I'm really
Yeah, I
interested
was
to
thinking
see
that.
what he's going to be coming up with.
Yeah,
Um,
because see, like this stuff, it looks cool, but it would be dope if he colored this stuff right here, man.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yep.
Because you could just see all those pinks and purples that he likes to work in, being real natural on a page like
Yeah,
this.
yep. It reminds me a lot of Mobius stuff, and I know you're not a
Oh,
big fan of Mobius, which is blows
well,
my mind.
everybody loves,
But
dude. Like everybody loves Mobius. Like it's not
everybody
my
loves
thing
Mobius.
in particular, but I mean, dude, are you crazy? Like he's one of the greatest artists ever, much
Yeah,
less
yeah,
comic book or
yeah,
whatever. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like, dude, like stop and look at his Arzak stuff sometime. It's
yeah,
so
yeah.
stunning.
It's
And the
gorgeous.
thing about Mobius is like a lot of people will be like, well, Mobius, everything is a clean line, and he never crosshatched, and that's not true. Mobius
No,
crosshatches all the time in his work. You know what I
it's
mean?
just a different type of crosshatching.
It's just a different type of. It's not the modern stuff we do. It's all rounded. It's all rounded
Yeah,
crosshatching or whatever.
yeah.
And he'll do it a lot on structures and on forms of like animals and on buildings and stuff like that. But dude, like Mobius is. I was just watching a Mobius documentary not like 10 minutes before we started this thing, dude. And he's just like so insanely talented. But no, this stuff reminds me of Von Baudet. You know who that is?
No.
Von Baudet? You don't know who
That's
that
why I was
is?
silent.
He's one of the God, dude, he's one of the heavy metal guys. Like he's the one who draws like
Oh,
those real he draws those real squat figures. You know what I mean? They're
Does he
all
have does
like
he have the character with the sunglasses, the red, I think they're red
yes,
sunglasses or something?
yes,
Yeah, yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah.
And it
I
just
could
kind of
definitely
has
see it.
that vibe to it or whatever. Dan Goodwin from
Sunday,
Doghouse,
Sundays in
from
space.
Sundays in Space. Yeah, he's a big Von Baudet guy too. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like
yeah.
that's why that's where you get that big foot thing, and that big hand thing that they do. Like
Yeah. But yeah, I love his pages. I love um Doug's pages. I think they're
no, this
fantastic.
stuff's great.
And he's another one that he's growing into the comic book format. I think he's obviously can draw, and I think he's working his way into the comic book format, and he's learning as he goes, which is really fantastic, especially the color. His color is great.
Yeah, like I always wonder about those kind of things. Like when I look at these guys' stuff, like I wonder how long have they drawn?
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
something they did since they were kids? You know what I mean? How long have they drawn comics, or how long have they thought about it? You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
like I'll look at certain telltale things and like, um, obviously you know what I mean. It's not like I know everything or like everything I think is right. You know what I mean? It isn't. So like if you do things different than I do, then I have no problem with that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but like, regardless of that, there are still sensible things that I'll look at that I'll think about. Like say on these figures, he has a heavy line at the bottom of them. Okay, that makes sense to me. Right? Heavier lines are always at the bottom of a form because that's where the least amount of light is, right? So anytime you're
Right.
doing line work, or like for me personally, I'll always put a heavier line at the bottom of a form, But like say up here, he doesn't put thinner lines at the top of the form. But that's what I would do. You know what I mean? Like because where light is hitting,
Yeah.
that's where you know what I mean. That's where
Yeah,
lines look
it's not heavily. That's where I think that's where I think he looks a little bit more Mobius than anything else. Is these he goes light on the shadows and the shading, and
Yeah,
which
there's not much of that, but
I
still,
like
you
that.
don't need that. Yeah, that's all. Like that's just artistic interpretation. I mean,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
don't do a ton of that stuff yourself. You know what I mean?
yeah.
You've
No,
always
no.
been light on the dark spotting and that kind of thing, and it's fine. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah.
Jamie's a bit more like me. Jamie comes in and does a bit more dark spotting on his stuff.
Right,
And it's
right, right.
fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's all about what you appreciate and what you want
mhm.
to come across in your art.
That's the thing. Yeah, it's like, see, it's because it's more about are you getting across what you are trying to get across?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
if you are, the page is bound to probably be successful, regardless of how you approach it or whatever, that kind of thing.
yeah.
Like you and I, we ink very differently. But of course, these are old drawings too. You know what I mean? Like I would really need to be looking at your Mordrum stuff right now to like judge your modern stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
think it's vastly different than this older stuff. You know what I mean? As cool as these are, and these are pretty good. You know what I mean? They're super fun, and really, I think the coloring is really what is making these come alive. Like, is the
These are
coloring pretty
done.
recent?
These are done with P.H. Martin dyes. Have you ever worked with P.H. Martin
I've
dyes?
never have worked with actual Doc Martin dies.
They
I never have.
suck. They suck. They're the worst
Well,
thing
that's
in the
pretty
entire
good though,
world.
dude. I mean, the colors you're getting are pretty good off of them, though.
I hate them. They once you put a color down, that's it. There's no moving that color. It's done. It's down there, and you'll never ever move it. You have to put a whole ton of water down there, and then that dilutes the color. So then you have to add more color. It is the worst garbage to work with. I'm done working with PH Martins. That's why I moved to the watercolor. That's why I moved to markers and then to the watercolors.
Yeah, I do markers myself, but see, like I don't, dude. Once I lay a color down or whatever, or once I have it in my head, like you know what I mean. I very rarely ever go back in and try and move color or like establish another
Well, I'm
color on
saying
top.
while you're doing it.
Like sometimes I'll screw up and just not get the colors right, but if I get it wrong, then like more often than not, I just have to start the whole page again. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
like
All right,
like
so
dude,
let's talk.
honestly, like Like,
Yeah.
what was it? It was like, it was this page right here. Let me see. Right. It was this page. And, I mean, like coloring the top panel was pretty challenging because it's supposed to be like a 3D hologram looking thing. That was, kind of tough. And I was going along and I'm coloring and I'm like, okay, the next one is like all grays and blues because it's supposed to be like a gel cell looking prison thing.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's cool. And then the next one, I just was like, oh, I just put these white stripes and the blue stripes in the background to give it just like this glossy kind of feel or whatever, and just like, that's fine. And then, I got down to this last shot and I was like, had that spaceship in it. And I was like, oh my God, I was like, I'm about to destroy this whole drawing because that spaceship's gonna look like shit. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
like I
No,
didn't know
I
what to
hear
do.
you.
Like, remember I was talking to you earlier, and I was like, oh, I was gonna do it in gold, and wasn't sure. And I was just like, oh no, I was literally thinking like, how dumb am I? I was like, I should have colored that first. Because like
Right.
usually that's how I'll approach something when I'm coloring it. I'll be, what is the thing on here that's hardest for me to color and that I'm the most unsure of? You know what I mean? And that's
Yeah.
usually where I'll start, because if I can get that looking good, then I can build away from it, because it's like, I know once I get to the superhero or whatever the main, that's not going to be a problem. That thing's already got its colors established and, you know what I mean? I know it works or whatever,
Yeah.
but it's like the backgrounds and like any tech that's around it or that kind of thing, like if you get one thing wrong, it's just like, the whole page is shot. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Talking about color, I think both of our favorite colorists, Nate Quirk, did the last two pages, and you don't like it.
I don't like it.
You said the ending.
This? No, what I
Yeah.
don't like is that there is no end to this. Where's the ending?
Um, I wrote this for
I've
Jake.
seen the end of this already. I've seen it. I know how it ends. I've seen it. Like you guys
This
put it
this
up
is
on Instagram or something.
no, this is it. This is how it ends. It's only a two-pager. Do you know how hard it is to write a two-page story in comic book
Oh, it's
form?
only a two-pager. Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
it's missing the beginning. Is that what it is?
No, this is what it is. It's a two-pager of Morgrim. He's in the desert. He comes across this oasis, and it's
Doesn't he
this
chop the tree
crying,
down with
huh?
the axe? Doesn't he chop the tree down with the axe?
No, no,
I thought there was a shot of him like killing the tree.
no, no. He comes across and the whole point of the story is, my Morgrim universe is very heavily, all of the gods are very hands-on with everything that's going on in the world. And so I wanted to just have a little story of how almost kind of like you remember that John Byrne story where it had Lex Luthor I think it was a backup story where he goes into a diner and he
I
offers
do.
the waitress like
Uh
some
huh.
insane amount of money to do something. I can't even remember what it was. And then he just she doesn't do it and he leaves and she'll never know if it was real or whatever. I just kind of wanted this one little story to kind of show how evil and how I don't know what the other word would be, just how downtrodden the gods can be on the people. So it was this crying monster or whatever, and then Morgrim is fights it a little bit, and it also I wanted a little bit of misdirection because I wanted the tree creature to be this evil thing, but it kind of takes you into its world or into its territory. But then he gets away, and it's really the skeleton of this woman is really the soul
Well, where's all that?
of this creature. What's that?
Where's all that at?
It's in here. If you guys just got to look between the lines.
What? Tripping, dude.
Yeah, no, you
I
got
need
Morgrim.
more of this.
You got Morgrim. He goes to this oasis. There's a crying tree-like creature, and
Right?
he interacts with the creature. The creature grabs him. They struggle a little bit.
I don't,
Keep
Alex.
squeezing him.
Alex, I don't have any of that. Mine doesn't
This
have that.
page right here. Oh,
That
wait.
the one you sent me just has one page.
Oh,
That's my problem.
well, look. Here it is. Here,
Okay. No, see, I've seen it. I've seen it already. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
that's what I
yeah.
was. That's what I was
That's
doing.
right.
Okay.
That's right.
So I just got
Yeah.
rooked. All right. This isn't in my copy. Okay. No, that's all right.
Yeah, because you don't have this either. You don't have the table of contents either.
No,
Yeah, so that
but that's
explains
cool.
it.
Like at least it exists and you did it. Okay, that's all.
Yeah,
That's cool, dude. Like
yeah,
that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
I don't have. That's okay. As long as it's out there and other people can get it. Like that's what's important. All
Yeah,
right, I was
so all this stuff
confused.
happens. So there is
You're
an
sitting there
ending.
talking to me and saying all this stuff, and I'm looking at my one page, and I'm just like, "What in the heck is he talking about?" I was like, "He's
That's
really being
hilarious.
generous with his art here if he thinks all that's being conveyed on this one page." And then I look up, and you got like 2 pages up. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, there you go. That's the
It's a great story. No, it's a fantastic story, dude. I love it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love it.
It's difficult to do 2 pages. I have another 2 pager that I'm doing for him, but I think it's going to actually be a longer story. So it's only going to be 2 pages of the longer story. But hey, let's. Before we go, because we've been doing this for an hour, I want us to do some trivia. You ready
Yeah,
for
go
some
for it, dude.
trivia?
Yeah, I
Have you
do.
ever
And I at
seen
least get a couple of these.
Have you ever seen this obsessed with
I have no
books?
idea what that is at all, but like you were
Um,
saying, it's got some pretty tough zingers in
They
there.
they have they have a Star Wars one, they have a Star Trek one, they have a Hollywood one, and it's just like it has 2,500 questions, and it's awesome because it has this little thing, and it says, so I'm going to go to 1,388 page. So it's not like you can, cheat and look at the answers or whatever beforehand because it's all in this little electronic box here. And yeah, these are super hard questions. I'm wondering if the Star Wars questions are as hard, and they must be. Oh, I lost it. 1,388. You know your Marvel trivia?
We'll see.
We'll see. Who is Amanda Sefton? A. Nightcrawler's girlfriend. B. Sorceress. C. Stewardess. D. All the answers are correct.
All the answers are correct.
Correct. Here I was saying how hard it was. Did you guess on that, or did you know it?
No, I knew that.
Okay. Boop, 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 boop. All right, we're going to 1,086.
She doesn't start off as a sorceress. She starts off as a stewardess.
Right. I don't remember. Weren't they adopted kids together?
Not
So
Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
He didn't. Nobody
I'm pretty
adopted him. He's just an orphan.
No, because her mother was a gypsy witch, and I think she adopted Kurt.
Well, no, Nightcrawler's mom is
Right. This was
Mystique.
before. Right. This was before they retconned that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like all I understood was that he had been raised in an orphanage or whatever.
Right.
And nobody
Right.
wanted him, and he joined the
because
circus really young.
Right. No, he. I can't remember the name of her mother, but her mother. I don't think she actually adopted him, but he considered Amanda his sister.
Right.
Which is a little odd, but that's okay. Where did the Wrecking Crew battle Thor in Thor number 304, 1981? A. Times Square. B. Rockefeller Center. C. Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts. Or D. The United Nations Complex.
I want to say D.
United Nations?
Yeah.
I'm going to say Times Square. So we'll
I was
say
going to
D.
say it's either that or it could be Times Square. Lincoln Center probably not the Lincoln Center. It's too complicated to draw.
So D is your final answer, United Nations?
Yeah, I want to say yeah.
Okay. D is correct. You were right.
Yeah.
Woo, you're 2 for 2.
You know what that was based on? Just that one being probably the most one that they could draw. You know what I mean? Like out of all those.
That's true, and they probably wanted like an iconic kind of.
Yeah, because you could just put the flags in the background or whatever, and
Yeah. I was looking up to see if they have a DC version of this, and they do not, which is unfortunate. 374, but I don't understand this. It has 374 and 375.
What do you mean?
Oh, here it is.
Pages?
they have sometimes they have like pages and panels. You can see my side of the screen, right? They have
Mhm.
panels of the comic book, so it's going to be a Spider-Man thing. Um, so this is a long one. Only a year after writer-editor Stan Lee introduced a new kind of superhero story in Fantastic Four #1, 1961, Amazing Fantasy was on the verge of cancellation. So Lee took the opportunity to experiment further with the superhero concept in Amazing Fantasy 15, 1962, shown above. Lee and artist Steve Ditko introduced Peter Parker, a teenage orphan and science prodigy who is a lonely outcast as at his high school. During a visit to a laboratory, Peter is bitten by a spider that had been exposed to radiation. As a result, Peter discovers he has super strength, the ability to cling to walls, and even a spider sense that alerts him to danger. Inspired, Peter invents web shooters, then project artificial webbing like spiders. He creates a new mask identity for himself, Spider Man, initially intending to exploit his new abilities to make a fortune in show business. But when tragedy strikes, the boy turned Spider Man vows to use his powers to protect the innocent. Who drew and inked the cover of Amazing Fantasy 15?
It's
A.
Steve
Jack
Ditko,
Kirby.
isn't it?
It's
It's
well,
Steve Ditko.
A. Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko. B. Steve Ditko. C. Steve Ditko and Dick Ayers. Or D. Jack Kirby and Dick Ayers.
No, it's Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko. Jack Kirby inks over Steve, right?
So you think it's A, Jack
Yeah.
Kirby and Steve Ditko? I know that
Yeah.
Jack Kirby actually created the costume of Spider-Man, or I read
Did
that
he?
anyway.
Did he do the black
That's what I
and
that's
red
what I
thing?
read. That's what I read that they were having troubles with costumes, so Jack Kirby took the ideas or whatever and made the costume.
Well, that doesn't
Maybe I
exactly
heard.
blow me away too much. But the mask thing seems more Steve Ditko, like the whole head
Yeah,
being
yeah,
covered or whatever, you
yeah,
know.
it kind of really does. I'm going to say B, but we're going to go with you said A, Jack Kirby and Steve
Yeah.
Ditko.
Uh,
Dang, you're right. You're 3 for 3. Let's do
I
one
know.
last one and then we'll go.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially
Knock
because
the
you're winning.
sucker out of the park here. About to do the freaking the with the natural. I'm like pointing at the fence right now. I'm about to knock this thing right to the lights. Dun, dun!
2,478. You're like, there's only 2,500 questions, so it's right here at the end. All right. Oh, this is going to be a hard one. Who created Weird World? I don't know what Weird World is. Do you know what Weird World is?
I do not know. It's got
I
to be
do
a
not
comic
know what
book or
Weird
whatever.
World
Like,
is. A. Roy
um,
Thomas and John Buscema. B. Doug Monick and Mike Plug. C. Bill Mantlo and Michael Golden. Or D. Doug Monick and Tom Sutton. I don't know what Weird World is.
it's either the first one or the last one. It's either Roy
A,
Thomas or
A or D. So
yeah. I'm gonna go
Roy
with A.
Thomas. Well, Roy
Although
Thomas
I'm
and John
really in
Buscema.
my head, I'll say right now, like I really believe it's probably D, but I think it's like my brain is just saying it's probably more likely that Roy Thomas did something like this because he was like Roy Thomas was all about like fantasy. You know, he's the guy that brought Conan to Marvel.
So you think Weird World is a fantasy thing and not like
You
a
know, Roy
science?
Thomas wrote the script for frickin' Conan the Destroyer, the movie or whatever. You know,
Yeah, yeah. All right, you're gonna say A. I'm gonna say C, just
it's
because.
either A or D, dude. It's one of those.
All right, we're gonna press A and see what happens. No, you were wrong.
Yeah.
It was B. Doug Monick
D?
and yeah, but we don't know. We don't even know what Weird World is. So
I don't. But I was just like, you know, I've never heard of those guys or whatever. But the other dudes, you know, like at least I know like some of the material they've done is like in that range of you know, esoteric fantasy from the 70s and 80s or whatever, you know. Like,
yeah,
because it sounds like something at the end of like the horror 8 years, you know what I mean? It sounds like
yeah,
something at the end of like House of Secrets, House of Mysteries, Ghost Castle, freaking, you know, all that kind of stuff, because that stuff just reigns supreme in the 70s. And as a matter of fact, here's a little sneak peek of like we're definitely going to be doing like a Halloween show coming up here in the next like
Yeah.
couple weeks, and I'm going to bust out my massive freaking box of like 1970s horror stuff that just have like in amounts of these amazing covers we can all stop and take a look at, like amazing things from the 60s and 70s, back when comic books were still only 20 cents.
Yeah. What is that's a Swamp Thing?
Yeah, Swamp Thing number 11.
Oh, that's awesome. Bernie Wrightson still, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome.
Dude, I just got like, dude, I've got mountains of this stuff. Just like, all the, because like, this was like my passed away wife's freaking, her mom in the 70s was just a massive horror collector, you know what I mean? And she just like bought everything horror that there was, Boris Karloff comics from Gold Key, freaking Ghosts from freaking DC, freaking Ripley's Believe It or Not from Gold Key, freaking Witching Hour,
My phone's about to die, so I think we're gonna have to call it.
All right, man. Well, once again, it's Comic Books from Coast to Coast. You guys made it to the end. We appreciate that. Make sure you throw Alex a like and a follow, and come back next time when we look at some classic horror comics from the 1970s to celebrate the spooky season of Halloween. Thanks for looking at some of our artist friends today and the amazing comic book anthology that Alexander is always working hard on printing. Random Access. It's really looking cool lately. We've been getting some really cool, interesting new covers. Every month has had a cool, interesting new logo on it. I really think this is a great logo. I like this one a lot.
Yeah, I know you didn't like the other one. This is cool too.
The only thing that bummed me out about this was that I was hoping there was going to be a Paul Courtjohn story in here that looked like this, and there wasn't. Yeah, that was a bummer.
That was just me. I contacted Paul and I was like, I want a cover of one of my characters to be the because it goes after the old EC comic where somebody's holding a woman's head and they went to court and he said it's not a bad taste because you can't see the neck.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
So I wanted that. Eventually, I'm going to do a cover of the same concept. So.
Well, it's just the book's been looking great lately. Cover's been looking great lately. A lot of really amazing artists on, feature. If you're an artist and you'd like to get your work into Random Access, be sure to contact Alexander Turbin on his Instagram. If you're looking to get copies of any of the comics that were featured on today's show, you can get your hands on those comics by going to comicscreatorsmarketplace.com.
Yeah.
And they're all available there at very reasonably priced. And you get those shipped out immediately and get those in your hot little hands. So once again, this has been myself, Joe Leonardo, and I'm hanging out with Alexander Turbin. This is Comic Books from Coast to Coast. We appreciate you hanging out with us. Is there anything you want to put in, Alex, before we get out of here?
Nope. I think we got it all, except for our last final saying.
You guys know what to do. Keep on creating.